Grasse now charging with authority, easing up first. 1972, a new best for Andre de Grasse.
There's a look at Tokyo as the sun has risen on a brand new day. Day 12 of competition about to get underway shortly at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. How you doing, Sweet Nation? This is the Extra Hour. My name is Brendan Dunlop, coming at you in this 6 o'clock hour on the Eastern time zone. I was going to say the East Coast, but of course that's an hour advanced. 3 o'clock out on the West Coast, and anytime on CBC Gem and on YouTube. A lot of surprises and some big guests on today's show. Let's show you what's coming up here on the Extra Hour. We will speak with Brock McGillis, activist and advocate. Next, Andy Petrillo, the host of Olympic Morning, will be here in a few minutes' time. And Canadian actor, you know him as Aladdin, Mena Massoud, also going to stop by to talk a little Olympics. Now, there have been two guarantees at these Olympic Games: the heat and surprises. The women's beam final event took place on day 11. Canada's Ellie Black and American Simone Biles both returned to action after withdrawing from previous events, with Black suffering from injury and Biles citing mental health concerns and prioritizing her mental health. She removed herself from competition. It was a surprise to see both compete here, as both athletes reduced their difficulty in the event. Biles claimed bronze, Black finished in 5th. On the track, Norway's Karsten Warholm obliterated his previous world record time in the 400-meter hurdles. It was incredible. Shaved off almost a full second, one of the greatest improvements ever. Truly a spectacular run from the Norwegian. Staying on the track, Canadian sprinters Aaron Brown and Andre de Grasse both competed in the 200-meter heats and semifinals on day 11. De Grasse raced to a personal best and Canadian record of 1973. Brown ran a season best time of 1999 to book his ticket alongside de Grasse in the 200-meter final, which will go tomorrow morning. Both Canadian beach volleyball pairs in action on day 11, both lost. Wilkerson and Bainsley lost to their opponents from Latvia, and then Pavin and Mena Massoud lost to the Australian pair. They were the early favorites too. The Canadians were on a collision course to meet each other in the semifinals. Instead of potentially 2 medals, Canada will take 0 from the sand. Here's Sarah Pavin and Mena Massoud after that quarterfinal loss.
I know we're better than that. It hurts right now. Like, there's nothing we can say. To end like that sucks, but I am so proud of who we are as a team and how we represent our sport and our country. If we could have inspired one kid in Canada to try beach volleyball, then we did our job. And I love her. It's an honor to stand on the court with her. And there's nobody else that I would have rather done this with than Melissa. And we wish that we could have given more.
Such a great team, and heartbroken to come home without a medal. The Canadian women's soccer team will compete for gold, which makes Quinn the first transgender and non-binary athlete guaranteed to win an Olympic medal. Here's more about Quinn's story on the Olympians.
Fortunately, we still have a lot of players who've had a ton of experience, and some players like myself who are becoming the young veterans of the team. My name is Quinn. You know, coming out as a visible trans person this past year, I definitely, want to be a leader to younger folks, so people could see me participating in the Olympics and know, if they're younger trans folks, that they have a future in sport, just like what I'm doing right now. What inspired me to come out wasn't so much, a point of inspiration, but, a point of pain. I think it was hard for me when, media was misgendering me. So I think that I wanted to be represented in my authentic way. When you have visibility, it doesn't automatically mean that there's going to be acceptance. It's new to sports organizations. I think that can be challenging at times. For a lot of folks, I'm the first, trans person that they knew personally, and so I think with that there is always a learning curve. you know, it gives for the capacity to have stronger relationships with people. And so I think that's the beautiful part of it, even though, you know, it does make you vulnerable to people. And I think opening yourself up to others, you could get hurt, but I also think you can evolve really fantastic relationships. And so that's something that I've done with my teammates, and I feel closer with them because of it.
Quinn, one of several great stories on that Canadian soccer team. Let's speak with Brock McGillis, who joins us now. Brock was the first openly gay professional male hockey player, retired now, an advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. Brock, thanks so much for coming on the Extra Hour.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We just saw a feature there on Quinn, who will become a history maker as the first transgender, non-binary athlete to win an Olympic medal. What message does that send for the community?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge for trans people. It's huge for non-binary people. And in reality, it's huge for society, because the more that, like when you think of trans folks, they are more marginalized in society. And the more that marginalized people succeed, the more we can all succeed.
Mm-hmm. And that image of Quinn receiving a medal, is that one that you thought that LGBTQ plus youth would have seen at Olympic Games in 2020?
I mean, you hope, right? But it's going to show kids, queer youth, that they can achieve. Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to show them that they can. I had a trans youth come to me that was self-harming and really struggling. And they found bodybuilding and weightlifting, and that became their release and an empowerment tool. And when you think about sport, that should be an empowerment tool. And this shows trans, non-binary, and queer youth that it can be for them.
Mm-hmm. You talk a lot, Brock, about humanizing these conversations, and Quinn will receive a lot of attention and has a real profile. The conversations I think that you've been having over the last year will continue to grow. Do you see a lot of positivity in the conversations to come?
I mean, yeah, of course. When you see people succeed within the community, within, you look at sport being a final barrier or one of the last barriers to achieve, and then you see people who are trans or non-binary being marginalized so much in society. When we see them succeed in that area, it's huge for the community, it's huge for society, and it's huge for trans and non-binary youth.
There's such a focus in sports on numbers. And one of the numbers that really stood out to me was in 2012, at the London Olympics, only 23 athletes had come out as gay. And Anastasia Busis, a friend of the show, part of our Olympics team, she was the first for Canada in 2014. And now there are over 180 that are out in Tokyo. There's a real progression there.
Yeah, and Anastasia is a good friend of mine, and we actually are in a documentary together. But when you have people like that who have led the charge, and then on top of that, you have the Adam Rippons, the Tom Baileys, the Gus Kenworthys, and other queer people at the forefront of movements, there's going to be a ripple effect. It's a snowball effect, right? The snowball gets bigger as it goes down the hill, and this is what's happening. And we're here, and we're in sport. Mm-hmm. Men's sport, women's sport. We have trans, non-binary folk that are here as well, and we're not leaving. And we're going to compete, and we're going to get better. And the more we see ourselves there, the more we're going to realize we can do it too. And it's going to be a full-on movement towards inclusion, recognizing that we do exist and that we are going to take up space in these areas.
Mm-hmm. Representation matters, and yes, space at these Olympic Games definitely in the spotlight. We can see the top of your shirt. What does your shirt say? Let trans...
It says, let trans kids play. And it's from Chris Mosier, transathlete.com, I believe. And Chris is a huge activist for the trans community in sport. And, there's so many bills in the United States right now trying to block trans youth from playing sport. And sport has the ability to empower and inspire and help these kids who are really marginalized and struggling. And we're taking that away from them.
What are some of the
create spaces?
Sorry to cut you off there. I just wanted to ask, what were some of the other stories that have inspired you at these games?
I mean, Tom Daley.
Yeah.
Seeing Tom Daley say that he, growing up, never could have believed that this day would happen for him is definitely inspirational. Seeing women in Canada succeed at such a high level is huge. It's a testament that we need to put dollars into women's sports, both on the professional level and also for Olympians. And we need to start prioritizing that, because as those sports grow, it's going to be a safer space for everybody. And seeing them succeed and carry our country is like so amazing.
Brock, I know you're doing amazing work for your community. Thanks so much for coming on the Extra Hour so we could have this conversation.
Hey, thank you. Anytime.
Track and field has the spotlight right now at these Olympic Games, and Damian Warner is the latest to look at the big picture.
This is a picture of me and my mom when I was a little baby. She looks beautiful. Looks like we had a lot of style. I was a pretty good kid, pretty quiet kid, and everything that I do throughout my life, I try to make my mom happy. My family has been through a lot of different things and some tough situations, and the first Olympics that I went to in 2012, that was the first time I saw my dad in 8 years. My mom went home early, and she only did that so I could spend time with my dad because I haven't seen him for a long time. So to spend some time with her at the Olympics in 2016 and to share that bronze medal was pretty special to me, and I hope I get to experience that again. When I think about the position that I am now and the competitions that I've been to and the places that I've traveled and just the experiences that I've had, it all ties back to my mom and the lessons that she taught me, and she's been the most special person to me in my whole life, and everything that I have and everything that I will have is because of her.
Damian Warner, definitely one to watch. And if you've been watching CBC's Olympic coverage every morning, you've seen Andy Petrillo on Olympic Morning, also the studio host of all the big Canadian soccer games. Andy, welcome to the Extra Hour.
I was waiting for my invitation, and I finally got it, like day 11.
Well, we just had to work into the schedule. I mean, you are one of the few people that do 6 hours straight of TV, and you're working morning television hours. So we were just trying to, find the right time for both of us to find our rhythm.
I appreciate that. I really do. Because yes, the mornings are like, is it considered morning 2 a.m. or is that the middle of the night? I'm still trying to figure that one out when I wake up.
I think it depends on what age bracket you fall into and what social life that you participate in. But yeah, 2 a.m.
There's no social life.
Not during the Olympic Games. No, if that's your wake-up call to show up to do morning television, 2 a.m. is definitely something I could not do.
I don't think it's really something I could do, but I know it's for the Olympics, right? So you kind of do it. I'm more of a night owl, but that's the thing, right? When you're doing the Olympics from home, which we all understand, why we're doing that, even though we have some remarkable people who are on the ground in Tokyo, but now you're dealing with a 13-hour time difference from the nation's capital. So, ET, and every time I'm saying good night Tokyo, I'm saying good morning Canada. So it kind of just, it's really trippy, that's for sure. But that's part of, Rio was the only Olympic Games, I have to say, I worked where there was just a 1 hour time difference. Sochi, I want to say, was about 8 or 9. Pyeongchang was the same thing, 14. So yeah, this is just what happens when you're dealing with a big chunk of time change.
Well, how different for you has this experience been in calling these games and covering these games, hosting the show from home in Toronto, as opposed to being on site at the games?
I have to give credit to everybody who has been on site and making sure that we still have access to the athletes and making sure that we see the pictures as beautifully as we do. And they really make us feel like we're in the game and we're in the venues and we're experiencing that moment. So I think, from that perspective, it's still been, really wonderful. But what I also think is so special about the Olympics, and this is just from a personal point of view, but I think it affects the viewers a little bit, being at the Olympics is you also get to share the culture of the host nation. And, we have the privilege and honor a lot of times at the games to go out a week before, to get acclimated to the time change, see the venues, get that experience. But really it's to do the tourist things. So whenever we go on air, we can say, this is what we experience about Japan. This is one of their cultures. This is what they like to do when this happens, right? Like you just really bring the games, but you're bringing Japan to the people. And that's just the part that I feel I've really lost. But again, I know we can completely understand why, but I have to give so much credit. Like even Devin Haru tweeting out these wonderful photos of the Japanese fans holding up signs, you know, for the athletes as they go into the venues, and just, you know, even Anastasia with her food tweets and everything. I'm like, that's the culture part. And I love it. So at least we're getting it from them.
Yeah, well, we'll get it from them when they, you know, move over there in Japan full time, and they both have late night television shows, and you know, the chain of a chain of Devin 11s open on this side of the pond. That's what we'll get from this experience.
Yes.
You don't get to be at the games, but I am envious. You do get to watch these soccer games with Karina LeBlanc. What was it like to see Canada book their ticket to the gold medal game and have her by your side for that?
It's so special to be with somebody who's been through the grind, who's experienced the heartache, who's still very much connected to the team, very much involved in the women's game, just how important that is for her as well. And when she saw former teammates, when she saw, you know, a crest that she had the blood, sweat, and tears for, finally accomplished something that they haven't, you know, in over 20 years. Oh boy, did I ever feel the emotions coming off of her. And, you know, I maintained composure, but it's not easy when she's also chasing you around with her camera phone. I'm like, stop recording me, for crying out loud. But it was really special because as much as I could feel it as a broadcaster, I could feel it as a fan, as I, you know, feel it as somebody who's a proud Canadian. There's just something different when you know somebody, you know, broke their back for that team. And to see them go through, that was definitely special to live it through her.
And you could tell, and she expressed it was special to share that with you as well. You know, you're someone that's contributed so much to the growth of the women's game, to the growth of soccer in this country. So you both had a vested interest in watching that play out, and to see them do it. Did you have any doubts that they would get the job done?
I don't know, because I've watched them the last couple games that they've played against the United States, right? Even from the CONCACAF Olympic qualifiers where they held them off, because that's been the narrative. The Canadians have been able to hold off the Americans in the first 45. They've been able to do that. And there's always something that happens in that second half. They did it at the Olympic qualifiers. They did it at the She Believes Cup, where they either get a little antsy and then try to push for that goal, or the Americans, as we also saw in that semifinal game, they make substitutions where you've got Press, Lloyd, Rapinoe coming on. Like, it's just wave after wave. And then they, you know, throw the attack on with very tired Canadian legs. And I did wonder, I went, oh no, this is going to be the test. When the Americans made that substitution and those three heavy hitters came in, I said, this is going to be the test. But they didn't falter this time. They didn't get impatient. They didn't try to push for that goal. You know, or try to extend the lead, because, you know, they waited for the Americans to make that mistake, ended up getting that penalty kick, and then locked it down defensively. As much as we can say the Canadians, we'd like to see more goals from them, they got the job done defensively. So felt good.
Now, I know this has been a very busy work stretch for you this summer, but as a sports fan, you've had a really good summer here. You just won the European Championships. You got to celebrate the Azzurri's win over England. Yeah, and now you've got the fastest man in the world. Can you share the love, Andy? Can Italy share the love with everybody else?
No. Well, listen, you know what? Okay, I'll take that back a little bit, because Italians, we're lovers. We're lovers. We're not fighters. We're just like, hey, come on in. We'll love you. You want to share? I'll break bread with you. I'll share my homemade wine with you, even though it may not be that good, but I'll give you some. Yeah, why not? But I mean, how incredible is this for Italy? Truly, you know, too, as a massive soccer fan, the devastation of not qualifying for the World Cup in 2018, and how, you know, this went. Let's put it this way: if Canada didn't make the Olympics in men's hockey, like, that's kind of the equivalent, or they don't win gold in men's hockey, like,
with
you
all the NHL players there, yeah.
Yeah, with the NHL players there, of course, that's what I'm referring to. Then, I mean, you are having a forum, like, everyone's coming together, and we're like, okay, what went wrong? Like, the entire nation will come together and have a say in that. Justin Trudeau will want to have a say in that. That's what it meant for Italy to not have their soccer team qualify for the World Cup. Like, anyone and their dog got together and was offering up suggestions on how to make it better. So it meant everything to turn it around, and turn it around as quickly as they did. And then, in track, that was the first Italian to ever make a 100-meter final, and then for him to pull off the victory. And can I just get one thing straight here? And I get it. Listen, he was American-born, but I think a lot of people, when they hear American-born, they just automatically assume that he is American and that he just switched allegiances to Italy, which that's not a problem. And by the way, how many athletes do that? So many. But he moved to Italy as a little baby. 26 years, like, this guy's he was doing this on the track, Brendan. He was doing this. No American does this. And he had this great Italian accent. So the boy's Italian.
Yeah, it doesn't get more Italian than that. You're right. The Italian hands. That's definitely the signature. So we're 11 days into competition. Other than Lamont Jacobs, do you have an favorite Olympic moment, or maybe it's something else?
I don't really have one yet because I love them all. I'm just involved in all of them. I will say, obviously Canada beating the United States, that's historic. So that just right away kind of goes into the history books. And we know 2012, we all called that an instant classic, right? This is kind of the nice poetic justice and bow for the Canadians. So how do you not love that moment? Penny Alexiak, there's just a swagger to her that I'm absolutely loving, becoming the most decorated Canadian of all time at the Olympics. And there's just like a little, I'll see you in, 3 more years as well. And I completely love that about her because people really did count her out. It was kind of like the one and done. And I could sit here forever and take up all your time going through, but I just know
it's
that those are the big
clock.
stories.
It's a TV show that's not a TV show. It's a floating clock. That's the beauty of it.
I know those are the big ones, but also there's the learning experience and there's the heartbreak, and today the biggest story, of course, because I think if we were to look at two big shockers more than anything, obviously it's our Canadian women in the basketball, being ranked 4th in the world going on in. And I think a lot of people were shocked that they didn't make it out of the group. And you're just like, oh man, because how good they are. And then, Sarah Pavin and Melissa Humana Paredes.
Yeah.
These are the reigning world champs. They're going in ranked number 2 in the world, hadn't dropped a set. And what Sarah said in that post-game show to say, like, if we have just inspired, one little kid to play the sport. And I'm like, yeah, in that moment where you're completely devastated, she also understood what it meant to be on that stage. Mm-hmm. And I love that because those are the two biggest shocks. Like to us, I don't know about you, but to me, I kind of felt like those are guaranteed medals. Basketball beats volleyball. Well. Yeah. So, that was heartbreaking, but what's also special about the Olympics is you see how people rise as well in that heartbreak and how they maintain that dignity. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. That part was also, it's crushing, but it's also like, I feel you. I get that. That's so wonderful.
Definitely. It has been great to watch. And the women have been flying the flag for Team Canada, as you've been flying the flag in the mornings for CBC's coverage. So thanks for sharing your time and coming on this show. But as you talked about sharing, I've asked about the special coffee that they have in the mornings for you, the Mocha Express Bialetti, and I'm told it's unavailable. So you're not really the sharer that you talk about, okay?
Lavazza, darling. Lavazza.
Told myself I'm gonna get it. I'm on 11. I got the 7. Came for the 6s and God is my witness. I got the business, foot in the biz. Lagos born with Toronto's on. Coasting the globe and I call it my home. Making a bone with industry clones. The realest online. Go pick up the phone. Your kingdom will rise. Your kingdom will crumble. The greed in your eyes will land you in trouble. The game is a balance. I came for the level. If you can't evolve, I brought you the shovel. Scars all on the mantle, the love of the fam, the love of the fans. I'm doing it all without an advance. As simple as math, I'm blazing a path. I'm coming in fast, I know it'll last. Maybe you grab it, maybe you top of my class. But I know you know, give me the gas, give me the kudos. Real on the dash, don't need the pseudo.
I'm in the best shape right now. I just got to go out there and make it happen.
I have no one to be scared of.
Charging with authority. Grasse has sent a shot across the bow.
Andy talked about athletes rising to the occasion at the Olympic Games. That song is called Rising. Tim Thompson put that together, part of the CBC's Olympic coverage. That's the song Rising. The artist is Shopé, who joins me now. Shopé, how you doing? Welcome to the Extra Hour.
I am doing phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me.
We just heard your song there, which is the anthem for Andre de Grasse in our track and field coverage. What was your reaction when CBC first reached out and said, we got to get together and we got to make this a part of the Olympic broadcast?
I'm generally very reserved and I try to keep my emotions in check, but I got to say that was definitely one where I may have stepped outside of that line a little bit because it's such an incredible platform. I'm just so grateful. So definitely I was ecstatic. I immediately told the important people.
And you're a Toronto-based guy, so is Andre de Grasse one of your favorite athletes?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I think he's a special and a rare breed. So to just be mentioned in the same sentence as he is absolutely an honor for me.
Pretty amazing. Well, when you began working on this song, what were your hopes and your expectations for maybe where the song might go?
I mean, ultimately, we didn't know, but I do know that my team, when we set out to create it, we set out to create this epic anthem that could sit in any sports highlight, in any action movie, but I never would have imagined it on the Olympic stage. So we knew it was special, but at the end of the day, you don't really know until it hits the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was just a matter of saying, listen, we're going to put our best for it and see what happens. And here we are now. So, so grateful for it. Absolutely.
Well, the song hits and it fits perfectly. So what was your reaction when you first saw the montage put together and you first saw it on CBC's broadcast?
Yeah, I think there's a video on my Instagram page.
We're rolling it now for people to see.
That really captures my reaction because it's such a cathartic experience to work at something and keep building it and to see essentially the apex of what you've been working towards. It was such a feeling of being overwhelmed to actually see it airing live, and I got a flood of messages from like old school friends like, dude, that's amazing, right? And so it was definitely one of those kind of like milestone moments for me.
That is amazing. These athletes have got the spotlight in Tokyo. It's great to see your music get the spotlight there as well. What else are you watching at Tokyo 2020? Andre de Grasse, one to catch your eye for sure in track and field now, but what else have you been watching?
I'm really a track guy, basketball guy as well. So I'm obviously keeping my eye out for those sports. Naturally, I'm Nigerian as well by descent. So I'm keeping my eye on some of the Nigerian athletes. And of course, there's been some controversy there, which is kind of sad. But nonetheless, I can take the wins where we get them.
Your music is Afro fusion, Afro beats. I like the sound a lot. What are you working on right now?
Many things. I think now's a great time to announce. Working on is something called Culture Rich World, where one of our missions is to amplify those in the diaspora. And the big vision is to promote the sharing of culture across people groups. So that's a product that I think I'm officially launching now. It's a soft launch per se. So by all means, people can visit the website to get a sense of what we're doing and what direction we're going. But we're talking music, we're talking storytelling, we're talking about so many cool things that just really works at helping us embrace the cultures that we're from and share culture with one another. And so the website is culturerichworld.com, all spelled normally.
I love that. Shopé, thanks so much for coming on. Congratulations on all your success and enjoy watching these games.
Thank you for having me.
Andre de Grasse, one of the biggest Olympians for Team Canada at these games and the focus of our latest feature on the Extra Hour.
I just couldn't believe it. I was just shocked.
De Grasse still within striking distance. Full first. De Grasse gets the silver medal.
If someone told me that I was going to come away at my first Olympics with 3 Olympic medals, it would be really tough for me to believe them. My mom was so happy. She just knew how much pressure I was under.
It was crazy, you know, like being in the stand there, I was like, did it really just happen?
You know, I'm just a new kid on the block, just trying to just go out there and make a name for myself.
Team Canada's now missing its biggest track star. The hamstring tear means he'll miss the final 100-meter showdown with Usain Bolt.
My confidence was destroyed at the time, not just from the first injury, but back-to-back injuries. You know, it was tough to have those type of battles and try to figure out myself and figure out how I can get past this. Things have changed a lot in my life. I mean, after having an injury, you know, you have to do things different. I had to make a new change through coach.
Come on! Come on, come on, come on!
There's always going to be a little bit of doubt. It was a process to trust me and for me to find a way to get to him every day. He's gotten people back from injury before, so I think he might be the guy to get me back to where I was and even better. The dream would be the Olympic 100-meter champion, but we still have a lot of stuff that we have to fix.
Hey, remember, when your foot hits the ground, it should pop off the ground. You shouldn't get stuck.
He believes that if I can get out the blocks with everybody else, that's when I have a chance to win the race.
A wonderful run by Grasse under so much pressure.
This was definitely a stepping stone for me to let people know that, you know, Grasse is back.
We went through a pandemic, so it took a lot of time to just work on some things that I never got a chance to work on. I think it's really paying off for me because I ran my first race of the season and I felt good. It's a good sign for me because, you know, I usually don't open up the season that fast. Yeah, my goals have remained the same. I want to be, you know, the fastest in the world.
I know Canada is rooting for me, so I just try to use that and don't even try to think about the pressure of performing and just go out there and try to do my best.
This is the first time I'm gonna miss it, so I really don't know what I'm gonna feel inside on that day. I'm gonna say good luck and go get that Olympic gold that you always wanted.
Andre de Grasse, one of the biggest stars at these Olympics. Time to bring in one of the biggest Canadian stars in Hollywood, Canadian actor Mena Massoud. You might know him as Aladdin. I know him as the biggest Toronto Raptors fan in Los Angeles. Is that a fair setup?
That's a fair setup, Brandon. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, thanks for coming on the Extra Hour, man, talking a little Olympics. What have you been watching in Tokyo?
A little bit of everything. You know, I haven't really gotten to sit down and watch a lot, but swimming, some track and field, because I grew up doing that a little bit, and of course, basketball. That's been riveting.
Yeah, well, Team USA, you know, got a lot of criticism for how they came out the gates. They're starting to look themselves now. They've definitely found their feet. And Kevin Durant, man, looks like he might be the best Olympic basketball player of all time when this is all said and done.
Yeah, he's racked up the most points, I think, in Olympic USA basketball history, and he's looking good. I'm looking forward to a Slovenia-United States finals. So that's what Luka Doncic versus Durant and Tatum and the rest of the squad. So that's what I'm looking forward to, man.
It's pretty amazing to see what Luka Doncic is doing on the international stage. I know you're a massive NBA fan. I know you're watching more than just the Raptors, of course. Did you think that Doncic would have this impact at the Olympics?
I think so. You know, I think he's used to it, playing for Dallas and doing it all the regular season and postseason for Dallas. So I think he's used to it. And I think it's kind of, you know, what he does best. So, no, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Well, seeing how vulnerable the United States looked, at least at the beginning, and some upsets with Argentina crashing out, Spain out in the quarterfinals. Are you watching this Olympic men's basketball tournament, wondering what R.J. Barrett and Andrew Wiggins and Team Canada could have done if they made it there?
You know, I think Canada's time is coming. You know, the Raptors just drafted a Canadian player. I think it was in the second round or something. But I think Canada's core talent is getting better and better. And I think pretty soon we're going to see a pretty dynamic Canadian team. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think it'll happen the next couple of cycles.
He's not on this American Olympic team, but Kyle Lowry, arguably the greatest Toronto Raptor of all time. I know the Raptors are near and dear to your heart. So you sad to see him leave and his chapter in Toronto Raptors history come to an end?
You know, I am. I'm sad to see him go. I think he is the greatest Raptor of all time for sure. I'm sad to see him leave, but I think we owe him this. And the fact that we could do a sign and trade is pretty good. Otherwise, the Raptors wouldn't have gotten anything at all for him. And, you know, he gets a little bit more money this way. We probably get a few draft picks or whatever it is that we're going to end up getting for him. So sad to see him leave, but excited for the future.
As you mentioned that you always pay attention to track and field. That's what you did growing up. Andre de Grasse is just such a superstar on the track and field stage. To see the rivalry that he had with Usain Bolt was incredible at the previous Olympics. And now to see him kind of have his own lane to carve out. Very excited to see him in the 200-meter final tonight. I think that the sky's the limit for him, man.
Me as well. And the women's Jamaica team, I mean, they're lighting it up too. So Jamaica's just proving to be a dominant force when it comes to track and field and running.
It's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch. Any soccer? Did you pay attention to the men's soccer tournament, the women's soccer tournament? The Canadian women are in the final after beating the States in the semifinal. That was kind of a big deal in these parts yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I will carve out some time to watch that. I know my Egyptian heritage people are my Egyptian fellow Egyptians are going to be mad at me, but I'm a bigger basketball guy than I am a soccer guy. But when it comes to the women's finals, I'm definitely going to carve out some time to watch that for sure. Well, you got a new project coming out. You're an Egyptian Arabic language movie coming out this year. Yeah, it's called In Broad Daylight. It's my first Arabic language film that I'm doing in Egypt. I'm going back to where I was born and excited to be doing that. And I've also got that's In Broad Daylight. I've got another film, The Royal Treatment, that's coming out on Netflix soon. Starring with Laura Morano, so I'm looking forward to that as well. I think people will really enjoy that one. Exciting, man. I know you don't get to come back to Canada as often as you would like. When you do come back, what's the first thing you're going to do in these post-pandemic or restricted, lifted times? I'm going to go get some pizza from Apocalypse Now and hit up my favorite restaurants and bars. I miss Toronto, man, especially in the summer. It's a beautiful city, the most beautiful city in the world during the summer especially, so just take in the views, walk around town, and hit up my favorite restaurants. Well, hey, it's great to see what you're doing in Hollywood, my man. My production crew's been talking about Aladdin all week long, so thank you very much, man, for coming on the Extra Hour, and wish you all the best. Thanks for having me, Brandon. I miss you, man. If you haven't watched Guy Ritchie's Aladdin with Will Smith and Mena Massoud, go and do it. Here's what you can watch on day 12 of the Olympics as things continue in Tokyo. Let's start with some golf, because women's golf starts on day 12. Brooke Henderson and Elena Sharp qualified for Team Canada, Henderson being Canada's best shot at a medal in Tokyo. The pair both had the chance to speak with men's players Corey Connors and Mackenzie Hughes. The advice from being there in Tokyo, let her rip. That's got to be good. Canada's Megan Benfito looking to medal on day 12. She missed out on a medal earlier in the 10-meter synchronized diving event. The native of Laval, Quebec, will be looking to add to her combined 3 medals from London and Rio. The event gets underway tomorrow morning, 2 a.m. Eastern. That's tonight at 11 o'clock if you're out there on the West Coast. Out on the track, we got another big day of athletics and another big name to watch. Canada's Damian Warner, a favorite to medal in the men's decathlon event. He comes in the Olympics ranked first in the world in one of the Olympics' marquee events. He finished 5th in London and brought home bronze in Rio. Warner will be looking to change the color this time around in Tokyo. We got another early start on the track. Grab your coffee, whatever it is that Andy gets. Get ready for the men's 200-meter final. That goes at 8:55 a.m. Eastern. You will not want to miss it. It's 20 seconds long. 2 Canadians to watch, Aaron Brown and Andre de Grasse, looking to bring home medals for Canada. Can de Grasse upgrade from silver to gold? You got to tune in to find out. You can watch Olympic Primetime, which is about to get underway. Starts at 7 o'clock tonight and every night on CBC and across all CBC platforms as Scott Russell takes you through everything in Tokyo. Let's take you through the medal standings. It is the Americans who reign on top with the total overall medal victories, while the Chinese do have the most gold medals in Canada with 14 gold medals so far at Tokyo 2020. This has been another great episode of The Extra Hour. I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out and thank you to all of our guests, and thank you for watching this each and every day. Continue to watch the Olympics across all CBC platforms. You can stream literally everything. Thanks for kicking it with me.
Andre de Grasse now charging with authority, easing up first. 1972, a new best for Andre de Grasse.